Srimad Bhagavad Gita chapter 1 and we had completed till verse 32. So I will give you a small recap of what happened till verse 32. Now Sri Krishna and Arjuna are standing in the middle of these columns, both the columns over here, that is the Kauravas and the Pandavas, and he is facing both the sides. And when he looks at the Kauravas army, he is very upset about it. And then he looks at his army, and then he feels that what he is doing is wrong. Now, what we had started that day was the idea of Dharma. Now, today we are going to take this concept of Dharma further. So, first let us understand all these things today, and then you will proceed further. Alright? So, we will now continue from the next verse onwards. So we are doing Srimad Bhagavad Gita chapter 1 verse 33-34. Those very persons for whose sake we covet the kingdom, luxuries and pleasures, teachers, uncles, sons and nephews, and even so granduncles and granduncles and great-granduncles, maternal uncles, father-in-law, grandnephews, brother-in-law and other relations are here arrayed on the battlefields, taking their lives and wealth. The next verse is, O slayer of Madhu, I do not want to kill them, though they may slay me even for the sovereignty over 3 kingdoms. How much the less for the kingdom here on earth? Krishna, how can we hope to be happy slaying the sons of Dhritarashtra? By killing even those desperados, sin will surely accrue to us. Therefore, Krishna, it does not behove of us to kill our relations, the son of Dhritarashtra, for how can we be happy after killing our kinsmen? Even though these people with their minds blinded by greed perceive no evil in destroying their own race and no sin in treason to friends, why should not we, O Krishna, who see clearly the sin accrued from the destruction of one's family, think of desisting from committing this sin? Now, these are very serious verses which happen to be a part of our world as well. The idea about Dharma comes into the picture. So, first let me explain what Arjuna is talking, and then I will give you the spiritual idea about this scripture. Now, Arjuna is going by the age-old traditions where he has been taught by his forefathers, his parents, his teachers, masters everywhere, and he has learnt from the society. There are certain things which we learn from the society. What we learn is we should not do anything wrong to our kith and kin, which means the near and dear ones. They could be anybody. We have learnt that we should not be disrespectful to our elders, our relatives, our parents. We should not get into any crossfire with even our friends, because that is not healthy. And secondly, if it is a question of fighting with them or having a war with them, that is so absolutely not allowed. You see, when the son or the brother takes over the kingdom, there is a fight amongst 2 brothers, and one brother comes and takes the property from the second one, he grabs it. Similarly, the son may overthrow the father, may put him in jail, and may take over the kingdom. Has this happened in the history? Many a times. It has happened during the time of Gautam Buddha also. Ajat Shatru's story is very well known. Now, here is a person who is putting his father in jail. Similarly, you have heard the story of Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan was put in a jail, and from there he was told to see the Taj Mahal by his own son, Jahangir. Now this is historical data. So you have heard this before. So naturally, now this is the recent times. Here we are talking of way back into the past. Way back into the past means during the time of Mahabharata. So during the Mahabharata, naturally it is known to the person that you are not supposed to do these wrong things. These are called wrong things. Are there many wrong things in this world which you are not supposed to do? Yes. The right and the wrong has been taught to us by our forefathers. They said that this is not correct and that is not correct and you should not be doing this and you should be doing this. This is what we have been taught always. The idea between the right and the wrong goes out of the window when a very serious situation arises. And at that point in time, like I said, Jahangir put his father in jail. Was it right or was it wrong? So naturally the whole world is going to say it is wrong. Correct? Even when there is a question of somebody whose parentage, the parent and the children are there, they are fighting with each other for property. What do you think this fight is all about? This fight is also about property, isn't it? Here you will find that a clan of brothers which are called the Kauravas on one side and then there are Pandavas on the one side and they are fighting. So naturally it is very natural for Arjuna to voice himself and say, this is something which is wrong. Understood? So, why should we covet somebody else's property? Now, here the question arises that the Kauravas had taken over this particular thing that is there in, their property by deceit, complete deceit, by the game of dice, if you remember. There's a great story about Shakuni Maharaj, switching the dice and all that. So, a lot of wrong things had happened. And these people had gone to the jungles. Vanvas, we call it. So, they had gone to the jungle, they had done the Vanvas. And after many years, they have come back and now they have fighting in the middle of the battlefield. And naturally, Arjuna is asking these questions which are 100% valid. Because he can see his entire relations on the other side of the fence. On the other side of the fence means there are people who are uncles, granduncles, teachers, everybody. I mean literally the whole clan is on the other side and on this side there are 5 brothers. So his dilemma is very simple. He says, how can I kill these people? It is not correct. Then he says, even if you give sovereignty over the 3 worlds, what are the 3 worlds? I told you what are the 3 worlds. That is the world of the gods, which is called the heaven. Then there is a world of the demons, which is called hell. And then this is the earthly plane. So there are 3 planes. So he says, even if you give me the sovereignty, that means I become the sovereign king over here, all these kingdoms also, I will not do this wrong stuff. All right. And then he says, how can anybody be happy? This is also important. In your own life also, if you have seen your own, kith and kin are fighting with each other, somebody takes away the property. Now you are at the receiving end, you are the person from whom the property has been taken. Are you going to say to this other person, is your conscience not going to hurt you? This is but natural, isn't it? You definitely will say, you should be feeling bad about it. You have taken my property, you have robbed it, you have done this. All these things you are going to say to this person who has taken it away. So it is but natural. Now you may think the other person is going to be having a guilty mind. But the person is living very happily, supposedly, isn't it? And he is not even saying anything, or she, whoever it is. They are very oblivious of the fact. They don't care about what is happening in this world. Understood? So you are wondering whether what you have done is right or what they have done is right and wrong. Again, the idea about the right and the wrong comes into the picture. So he says, even if somebody is blinded by greed, who is blinded by greed? The people who have taken away the property, they are supposed to be blinded by greed. This is understood fact, correct? So, and they do not perceive this evil. This is evil, isn't it? There is a lot of things about the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, the evil and godly. We have these ideations. So, we see sin accruing from the destruction of one's family. Think of desisting from committing this sin. So here is the person who says, I should not be doing this to my own family, to my own kith and kin. Is it a done thing? And he is asking this question to Sri Krishna. Now, we will continue. Age-long family traditions disappear with the destruction of family, and virtues having been lost, vice takes hold of the entire race. Verse 41, with the preponderance of vice, Krishna, the woman of the family, become corrupt, and with the corruption of women, O descendant of Vrishni, there ensues an intermixture of castes, progeny, owing to promiscuity, damns the destroyers of the race as well as the race itself, deprived of the offerings of rice and water, that is the Shraddha, Tarpana, the mains of their race also fall. Though this evil brings about an intermixture of caste, age-long caste traditions and family customs of the killers of kinsmen get extinct. Krishna, we hear that men who have lost their family traditions dwell in hell for an indefinite period of time. Verse 45, oh, what a pity, though possessed of intelligence, we have set our minds on the commission of the great sin that due to lust of throne and enjoyment we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. It would be better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra armed with weapons kill me in battle while I am unarmed and unresisting. So the last verse of this chapter says, Sanjaya said, Arjuna, whose mind was agitated by grief on the battlefield, having spoken thus and having cast aside his bow and arrow, sank into the hinder part of the chariot. Now here, what is Arjuna saying? There are wars going on across in the world. How many wars are going on? Many, many wars are going on across in this world. Now when the wars happen, have you seen that the men get killed in the war? They have gone with their guns to fight. They have gone with their weapons. Now, the other army, they take over the kingdom. So let us say on one side there is one army, the other side is the other army. And there are wars happening today. You have seen in the Middle East it is there, in Russia and Ukraine it is there, in earlier on there was Pakistan, India and so on and so forth. There are so many wars going on across the world. Way back in the past also there was Vietnam and United States, there is Afghanistan and US and Iran, Iraq against the US and all these things, and the UK and all. So these are wars going on. So when the wars happen, you will find that the victorious people, that whoever is the victorious party that is there, they are going into the lands of the people, those who have lost it. Even during the World War II, the same thing happened. You will find in the initial stages, the German army was walking inside the entire Europe. They went up to the borders of USSR at that time, which is now called Russia, part of Russia. Now what happened over there? Who is left behind? The men are already dead, or they might have been captured as prisoners of war, POW. Now, the women are there and the children are left behind. Have you heard of women being raped and all? You have heard of that, isn't it? You have heard this is happening literally across the world. Everywhere the victorious army is doing that. Somebody who takes over the land always goes after their women and children. So Arjuna is saying out of his experiences from the past and what knowledge he has. And now you also have the same understanding and the knowledge. whenever there is this kind of a war happening, what happens? The age-old family traditions go out of the window. Right? What are the family traditions? Everybody has some tradition or the other. Everybody is living happily in a family. They have their traditional systems. See how things are happening in the world today. One community taking over another community, one particular thing is taking over another thing, another person, another land. They are converting them, they are threatening them, they are putting them at the end of the gun and saying, if you don't do this, isn't that happening? The women and the children are raped, converted, their religion is thrown out of the window. This is a very common practice. And naturally, what Arjuna is saying is valid even today in this world. So he says, the tradition goes out of the window. There is a destruction of the family. The women of the family become corrupt. Means what? They are getting raped and all, isn't it? This is something which is very dangerous. And when they have children, have you heard of that lady who went to the Middle East and joined that ISIS and all, and then she wanted to go back to UK? That big story which happened in the newspapers. Now, whether she went on her own will or what, we don't know. I have no idea about it. But please think about it. Then she went and she had children. In some religions, you are not allowed to go for abortion and other things. In some religion, there is no such problem. In Hinduism, nobody cares. But in some of the other religions of the world, it is very much, you cannot abort, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. There are do's and don'ts in the religion. So naturally, they have to bear the children, and the children born out of this kind of a, union are going to be different kind. They are from different society, isn't it? So when you think like this, what happens? There is a very big furor. There is a problem in the entire world. In ancient times, the same thing happened. The Mongolian marauders that were there. Have you heard of the Mongolians? Okay. So there is this person called Genghis Khan. You have heard of Genghis Khan, isn't it? Huh? Now Genghis Khan was a very young person, 18 years old. He was given the charge of leading the army. He conquered everything from Mongolia. You know Mongolia, where it is north of China. From there he went across China and everything right up to Turkey. Turkey is on the other end of the world. And you know how far that is. So he went on capturing kingdoms after kingdoms after kingdoms. And he reached Turkey. Now there were 4 sets of generals. He was the head of one particular army. Now there was a woman he was following. Basically this lady was the person who was pulling his strings. And she forced him to kill these other generals and take charge. Either they had to follow what he said and make him their kind of a boss, or otherwise they will get killed. So everybody said, okay, some people got killed, some people joined him. And then the entire army started conquering every land that is there. So now, when Genghis Khan sent his general to India, he started conquering everything. Now, they were Mongols. Please remember this. These were Mongols. They were not from Middle East or anything like that. Okay? They entered India. They captured a whole load of India also. And when they were crossing back into China, Genghis Khan was asked by his general, see, we have captured so many million men. What to do with them? We have women also. What to do with them? You know, the person says nonchalantly, he says, you know what? Kill all the men. So millions of men were killed on the spot. And the women were taken captive. This is during the time of Babur. Now, this history is not told to us, but now I am telling you, this is what is the mention. So you will find that there is a lot of Indian blood in the Mongolians as well. Do you understand? Likewise, a lot of people went from India to China. You have heard of the Shaolin Temple also. The person who taught in Shaolin Temple, the main person, was an Indian, was from this Bharatvarsh. So there are lots of things which happen across the world. There is a contamination of races. People get mixed around with each other. And then he says, when there is a corruption like this happening, the intermixture of castes happen. All right? There is an intermixture of castes. Now, you may wonder whether this intermixture of caste really happens or no. Please understand this. This is something which is not told to us, but the movement of the first yuga to the second, that is the Krita yuga was there, Satyug. From Satyug to the second one, which is called the Treta, happened because of contamination. The contamination of races happened, and then everything went to ruins. Just think about it. There was a princess, a young girl, very beautiful looking young girl, from what is currently known as the south. She was coming from south. She was not fair and all, she was dark looking. And here was a great sage and a saint who fell in love with her and married her against the wishes of entire family. He was a king. Okay. So this kind of contamination happened, and the second yuga started because the scriptures do not allow you to contaminate the races. Because not only is the genetic structure different, but the way of living. Here he says, no, the corruption happens. The destruction of the family is lost. Virtue is lost because the races have difference. You know, in India, we have certain way of eating things. Chinese have a certain way of eating things. The Mongolians may have something else. Will you agree? So you will find that everybody's way of praying to God or eating or living is different. In India, the women wear saris and salwar kameez. You know, they wear other things as well. But does anybody wear sari and salwar kameez in Europe? No, neither do they wear in Americas. So that is not something which is the culture over there. The culture differs. The way of living differs. So when one kingdom takes over the other one, this kind of cultural problems come up. In India, the value of Mangal Sutra and the thread which they tie in the hand is very important, isn't it? They will wear bangles, they will wear a tika over here. But the tika is not worn. The Mangal Sutra is snatched away. Now, these are the differences which Arjuna was aware of. So he is telling Krishna, this kind of problems will happen. This intermingling, though the evil bringing about an intermixture of castes, the age-long traditions of the family, customs of the killer of the kinsman get extinct. Did you understand this? It's a very, very natural thing. And all these go out of the window the moment somebody else takes over the kingdom. It is even in India today, when a girl from one caste marries another, or from one religion marries another person from another religion. Doesn't it happen? You have to take the name of the man, his family and so on and so forth. This is something which is acceptable in our world. So he says, but this is what happened. Then the family traditions went out the window, and it is said that when this happens, In the scriptures it is written. You should know this. It is written in the scriptures. It's very important. The scriptures say if something like this happens, you're going to go to hell. This is so common, it's like a threat over there, which says, you do this kind of a thing, you're going to go to hell. So he says, instead of facing this kind of a thing, don't you think it is important that I can die in the battlefield at the hands of my enemies? Instead of going through such a horrible thing, I would rather die in the battlefield. I don't want to continue to fight. And Arjuna is very naturally bothered with all these things. And so he says, I will throw my bow and arrow at the side and I will just sit over here totally lost and dejected. Now, this is what is mentioned in the scripture. Now, the spiritual meaning of this. See, in our life, we go through this every single day. We have been taught everything by our parents and grandparents and the society in general. Honoring our fathers and mothers, our forefathers. The entire tradition has to be followed. Some of you might have seen that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding or something like that. You see, that's a traditional thing. Like that. The tradition has to be followed. You see, when they have the Christian marriages, you have seen that the bride wears that white, clothes and with a long trail and stuff like that. They have a tradition. The father brings the bride and so on and so forth. And then the thing happens in the church. In our religion, you will find that we have the thread ceremony. You have heard the thread ceremony? Is it traditional? Yes, it is traditional. 7 feras round the fire while getting married? Yes, it is traditional. Similarly, in some of the religions of the world, they have nikah, they have church marriages, everything is traditional, as written in the scriptures, as told to us by our forefathers and parents and everybody. Now this is so natural to have, that you have to follow the rules of the society. As a human being, you are bound by those rules. The moment you say, I am going to have a court marriage, your own parents to everybody is going to look at you as if you have done the biggest sin on earth. The moment you say, I am going away with this person, how can you do that? I am not going to wear my bindi. Now, since all of you all are women, I am just telling you all from women's side, okay? I am not bringing the men over here. So, you can't wear the bindi. You have to wear the Mangal Sutra. You have to wear the ring. In most of the places, they wear that ring, isn't it? So, they call it the wedding band and stuff like that. You have to wear that. You have to declare yourself as a married person. Right? And then, everybody expects you to get pregnant. Anybody in this world says, no, you are not supposed to. Can you tell your parents, I don't want to get pregnant because I want to first look after my career and the moment you say that, everybody in the family is going to get upset. How can you do this? You are betraying us. All this kind of nonsense is there. This is called tradition. Alright? The tradition takes over everybody's life. And we are all Arjunas, the sacrificial lamb. You have to follow what is being told to you. You cannot go against the family. You cannot go against your parents' wishes. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. Otherwise, you are a very sinful person. You are committing the gravest sins. You are going to go to hell. This is a threat put on top of everybody's head. So the father and the mother will find one boy and they'll say, get married to him. Why? Tradition. And you can't say no. Why? You have to follow traditions, no? Now you may be in love with somebody else. Or that fellow can take a hike. This is the way. And you going against it is wrong. Now here today I am not going to offer you the solution because we have to find the solution in chapter 2. So at least 1 week of suspense is important for you all. So I'm going to keep it at that. Because all this is wrong. Everything that I said, whatever Krishna is going to give the answer, is the truth about life. How you have to live in this world is what Krishna is going to talk about. The essence of Dharma is something which you are going to get shocked when you hear what is Dharma all about. Because nobody teaches Dharma better than Sri Krishna. The entire basis of this religion is to be on the path of Dharma only. But nobody explains the Dharma to anyone. They think tradition is Dharma. Okay? So, please understand this. Every one of you over here has gone through Arjuna's story yourself. You are the Arjuna. You are the chicken who is going inside and that fellow is going to cut your head. Like that it is. You are definitely like that. Because that is why. You are the sacrificial lamb also, like they say in Christianity. They say you are the sacrificial lamb. You have to follow that tradition. See, these are traditions from very ancient times. And these ancient traditions are something which we have to follow because society says so. And that is the reason why Arjuna says, I have a difficulty of following this. I will not fight. So we have come to the end of verse 47. I will stop over here. But please understand, all that was being said over here is not the truth. The answer we will have to find in the coming week. So I will stop over here now.
Recording stopped.